Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics Show. We are live here on DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channel. Guys, do yourself a favor, do us a favor. Make sure to check us out on Twitter first. At DSM_Media is where you can find us. Make sure to hit that follow button. And then check out the link tree in our bio. It will take you to every social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive, get your thoughts, comments, questions pulled up here with us on the live. Make sure to check out the YouTube link specifically, like you can see pulled up on the screen right here. Hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, family, any other Philly sports fans that you may know of that might be interested in the content. We appreciate it. The first two games of the first four in Dayton, Ohio took place last night. We practically had a buzzer beater to open up the action of March, Scotty. So we're going to talk about that 16 versus 16 matchup last night with Alabama State moving on to take on Auburn tomorrow. UNC, you think they were pissed off about all the talk about them not belonging? They rout San Diego State late last night. They move on, and they are favorites against sixth seed in Ole Miss come Thursday afternoon. We're going to talk about that. Tonight's games, give our official Final Four predictions. If you guys want to enter our bracket challenge, we'll post the link. I got to tweet that out still, so make sure to, if you want to battle against us, it's $10 buy-in. We'll get you everything you need there. More Eagles moves, more offseason. Philly's opening day just over a week away. We got a lot to get into, but my man, happy hump day, happy Wednesday. What is going on?
Yes, sir. Happy hump day. Plenty to get into, as you mentioned, but having a pretty good day, man. We're one day away from the real tournament starting. We got a little bit of entertainment tonight that we can enjoy ourselves with until then. And it's going to be a really fun weekend, man. Fun weekend of basketball. I know you don't dabble in the soccer, but there's international soccer as well, man. We got the countries going at it this weekend. So
I wish I did, man. I wish
I'm dabbling. It depends on the timing, because I'm a soccer guy because it's so early in the day.
Yeah.
And it's a way for me to get into the action early.
Right. But then come tomorrow and Friday when there's
games on at noon,
arguably the greatest, American sporting event of the year that we've been going on. It's hard to change where your eyeballs are going. But no, I wish I could. The only time I really I wouldn't even say get into it, but like we'll enjoy it, or we'll throw my money on it a little bit, or watch it with some friends or whatever, is like the World Cup. So
the World Cup,
that's really the only time.
That's honestly when I got into it, was watching the World Cup, and then I just followed some players. I play video games too, like FIFA, FIFA. FC, so that was part of it too.
FIFA is a tough video game. I'll give it to I fuck with FIFA.
It's my favorite sports video game. It's better than Madden.
Without a doubt.
Just like the gameplay. But yeah, nonetheless, man, we got the greatest, to your point, greatest American tournament, whatever you want to call it, event, sporting event of the year. You can argue between it and the Super Bowl, I guess, but that speaks to itself, right? If you're competing against the Super Bowl. But it is a thing of its own. It's in a class of its own because it does last much longer. Much longer than a single Super Bowl game, or even a 7-game series in the NBA or MLB. So it is top class when it comes to sports enjoyment. We're going to see some upsets. We're going to see some predicted upsets that don't turn into upsets, and maybe it gets upset the other way. So there's a lot to it, man. The way the tournament is blown up over, I mean, over my lifetime, man, because it didn't used to be. Submit a bracket here, submit a bracket on this site, submit a bracket on this app. It used to be one bracket that you're putting together with some friends, maybe passing it around a room. And now it's all across the globe. You got everybody getting involved. So it is a very big moment, man. I'm excited for it, brother. You can tell.
No, oh yeah. Well, I mean, dude, you got what, 32 games stretched across 2 days, but it's one and done, right? So okay. Well, the NFL playoffs is one and done. Yeah. Well, there's 2 games on a Sunday afternoon, or 2 games on a Saturday. You have 16 games tomorrow, 16 games Friday, and like you said, it's predicted, but it's almost just like factual. Like there's going to be a moment or 2 or 5 over the next weekend or week and a half that are going to have you just absolutely dumbfounded at something that happens, and that's the excitement of March. But last night, man, we got one of those moments basically to kick off. I know it's not a matchup that probably a lot of people were tuning into. All right, St. Francis, Pennsylvania, 16-win team, the least amount of wins in the tournament, arguably the worst team in the tournament, found their way against a 20-win Alabama State team. St. Francis, I believe when it closed, were 3.5-point underdogs. I know it was floating between 3.5, 4.5 for a while. Yeah. They end up covering. Obviously, they lose by 2, but they were winning a large majority of this game as well. They were up 5 at the half. I would love to know how Vegas made out on this particular matchup, because I remember sending it to you and D-Rab. Like, I took the over because the public was kind of all over the under. Yeah. But when the line shifted, so like I got at 137.5. But I saw a couple cappers I follow get the under at 138.5. And what do you freaking know? It ends at 138. So like I'm sitting here like, oh, I'll fade the public. But then I see everyone celebrating that the under hit. So I'm interested to see like how what Vegas made out with on this game, how many people were on St. Francis. But nonetheless, it was just the epitome of March Madness. I mean, yeah, exactly. You didn't see it. It's a tie game. There was a scrum first of all, there was a loose ball foul tied at 65 or 68, excuse me. Kid misses the front end of a 1-on-1, classic. Then there's a scrum for a ball out of turnover, goes out of bounds, and with 3 seconds left, dude just throws like a Grant Hill type, Christian Laettner type pass, but even further. Yeah. That like instead of like the ball getting knocked down or going right or left or any other way, the ball like it was like that Commanders Bears Hail Mary, where like instead of the ball going any other way, it beautifully floated over the rest of the arms and hands and heads, landed in the point guard's lap at the rim, and he puts it up with like a second or 0.8 left, and they come away with the win, man. So it's just a fun start to for this tournament.
Yeah. No, it is so March Madness, man, for that to go down like that, for that to be like I'm not going to sit here and over sensitize the game. I mean, it's not a legitimate
it was not like
classic.
A great basketball game.
It was a good basketball game between South Alabama and St. Francis, man. Yeah. Believe that or not. I had to look down just to make sure. It was not South Alabama. It's Alabama State. Yeah, that's how good of a game it was. I couldn't remember the name of the team that won. But it was a close game. It was down to the wire, man. I texted you and D-Rab there in the comments. I texted you guys immediately. Well, D-Rab texted first, and then I texted back after I saw it, man. And it speaks to what March Madness is. It speaks to the product of college basketball, where you can get enjoyment out of Alabama State game against St. Francis.
Fuck yeah.
It was very entertaining. But what it does, man, what it honestly does, all seriousness, just gets me even more excited for the big stuff that's
1000%. Coming. Because, dude, it goes beyond the basketball game itself. Like I said, like this was not like a great, viewing pleasure type of basketball game. If you gambled on it, it had excitement on both ends. Hopefully everyone made out on the right side of their bets. The last minute and a half was exciting. Like I forget what the score was at one point, but Alabama State gets a bucket, goes up 3. St. Francis bangs the top of the key 3, tie game. Alabama State comes down, answers with a 3. St. Francis answers with a 3. It's 65-65 with 30 seconds left. Like that was exciting, but it's more than the basketball game. Like it's the lure of it, right? Like when that music hits, True TV, unless you watch it Practical Jokers, True TV doesn't mean shit to 99% of the people out there, except for right now. And that music hit, and you get the court in Dayton and the logo and just that's why you enjoy it. It doesn't matter who's playing in that game. You enjoy what you're watching last night.
It was better than the Sixers game, to my man Gets point. It's better than a Sixers game this year, that's for sure.
Fucking right.
It's a must-lose, Mr. McGinty. It's a must-lose. We cannot feed that pick to OKC. But no, to your point, it was very entertaining for the last part of the game for sure. Definitely makes it better when you're winning a bet on it, but that's going to be the whole tournament. That's what's fun about it, right? It's what makes it funner. I'm not going to say that's what's fun about it, because when I was younger, I watched the tournament without betting. It wasn't about that. But no,
yeah,
it is.
That's the thing. You couldn't do it. Excuse me. How it's done now, it wasn't legal. I mean, you could bet, you could gamble. There were ways to do it, but there wasn't an app on your phone where you could plug in a card number and drop as much money that you have at any given moment. So
yeah,
that's
facts.
I
like I do too much.
Yeah. Maybe it's not a good thing, but who knows? But all right, St. Francis, PA, Alabama State.
We're done with you,
right? The Tar Heels, brother. The Tar Heels. I know you hate them. I dislike them.
Yes.
A lot of conversation. We talked about them. We talked about their AD being on the committee. Oh, I got to go take a piss while you guys talk about the UNC getting in or not. Don't forget your good friend here. They get in. A lot of backlash. A lot of experts, bracketologists, people that cover college basketball, you know, talked about this team not belonging and not deserving of being in, right? West Virginia, Indiana should have got in, whatever. They look pretty fucking deserving last night. And you know what it made me think, man? It really did. Like, and there is still the point of what's the point of everything else? What is the point of these of the metrics of these quad 1 wins that you guys value so much? They have a quad 3 loss. Like, what is the point of putting together these resumes if maybe they don't matter that much come to the end of it? But that's what you do question about the tournament when they're putting things together like this, because you're going to watch that UNC team. Now, they were bad a month and a half ago. But over the last month, 3 weeks, that team's been playing a lot better. And then you watch what they did last night. You're going to tell me like they're not one of the best, 40 teams in the nation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
they are. Like they are. They're a top 30, 35 team in the nation, if you want to be honest about it. So,
maybe.
Yeah, it's
just kidding.
It makes I think they were pissed off, okay? I think they were a little pissed off.
Yeah.
And they fucked up San Diego State last night.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And to the point of, the pedigree that UNC is, they should go out there and stomp on San Diego State to make sure that they get into the actual tournament and get a chance there, man, because this is what it's about. This is the pressure that comes with going to UNC as well. But to your point, everybody was doubting them. A lot of people came out of today talking about, well, maybe it was San Diego State that didn't belong. But obviously you can say that now, right? We talked about it on Monday about West Virginia, so on and so forth. But it remains the same, right? And I think this kind of proves the point is the pedigree is always going to get the favor over the non. You know what I mean? The blue chip schools are going to get favored over the non-blue chip schools. That's just the way it is in college sports. And rightfully so, quite honestly, because to your point, you saw what they were able to go out there and put up against what is supposed to be a great defensive unit out there in San Diego State. And they put close to 100 on them. So you look at what UNC presents. They got RJ Davis. He's a scorer, man. He can light it up. He can get you 25 to 30 points. And ultimately that is what can win you a game from time to time. So when it comes to ratings, maybe they did pick UNC just for the name tag and the ratings that it would bring to watching the games. Or maybe UNC was just good enough to be in the field of 64, man. Maybe that's what it comes down to. And quite honestly, they should be.
I think
should
that
be
was
good enough
I
to
think
play
that was
in the
part of
field
the
of
argument
64
as well. I don't know. Again, I don't know all the advanced statistics and these metrics, but aside from resume builders, aside from those quad 1 win and they have a quad 3 loss compared to these other records, apparently just the team statistics, their offensive metrics, their defensive metrics, UNC was by far the best team of those bubble teams that people were talking about, right? So it goes deeper than, look at their quad 1 wins, and West Virginia has 4 quad 1 wins, and et cetera. So it ran deeper than that. They just clearly deserve to be in. And now, like I said, they're a 1.5 favorite over as an 11 seed over a 6-seeded Ole Miss tomorrow. So we'll see where the money continues to go. We'll move into tonight's first 4 before the tournament really kicks off tomorrow at 12:15. Exciting matchup, brother. Exciting matchup to start. Again, Mount St. Mary's versus America.
We're sickos.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, where the public zigs, your boy is zagging to start March. 65% of the money with just about 50% of the bets is on the under. So I'm taking the over.
Okay.
It is a scary play. Am I confident that these two teams are going to get me to the mid to high 60s equal, both to get me that total? I'm not sure, Scotty, but I'm going to try to win with the books here.
They average, right? 65.
Yeah,
And
they average like
70.
one. I think Mount St. Mary's averages like 70, 71. American averages like 68 or vice versa.
Yeah. Or maybe I saw in the last 10 games.
Yeah, they've both been playing better defensively. It was conference tournament time, so defense is stiffen up. The game slows down. Yeah. I did see a fun, like, DraftKings, like, changed, like, either updated or added something. So, like, when you click on a game, you can click, there's like a betting trends button, and it gives you all these different numbers now. Yeah. Games played in Dayton at this arena in the first 4 are averaging like 141 points or something like that in the game. So, has nothing to do with the teams, but hey, games there tend to go over. This is just fading the public for me. I'm nervous as shit about it, but the part that does piss me off should be, yeah, the line's still 2.5. The thing that pisses me off, and I feel like this happens to me every time I bet a total. Yeah. The total was 129.5 at -110. I altered it to 128.5 at -125. And as we were talking here, I go back to check, and now the total is 128.5 at -110. So if I would have waited another 15 minutes, I would have just gotten the line I wanted at an even line regardless. So that's pretty sick.
Fair enough. But like, to your point, I do agree with you. You look at these two teams. It should be a close game, so maybe you get lucky if you need some extra points, you get OT even. Yeah. We've seen that already throughout the conference tournaments, but yeah, I think when you look at this game, it is interesting looking at these two teams. I know me, you, and D-Rab were in the chat talking about picking a side on this game as well, and it's hard. It's hard to pick a side. You go in covers, right? We talked about this as well, man. You go in covers. They got cappers picking two different sides of the game. Like, that's not helping me out any. But I do tend to lean towards Mount St. Mary's. I think it is a little bit of bias, being my Maryland roots. Grew up a little bit of my time in Maryland, so I passed by Mount St. Mary's quite often in my college days. So. Maybe a little bit of bias, but I was reading up on them. It was one of these things where it is a matchup thing with this American team. Apparently, American side likes to rely on the 3-pointer. Mount St. Mary's is one of the better teams at defending the 3-pointer. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't think I'm going to throw any money on it, but I am going to use it as kind of like a gauge for me in the tournament and my picks. You know, I'm not gonna lay everything bet wise, but I am gonna track my picks. Obviously, I haven't picked the bracket picked, but even for these first 4 games, I do want to kind of keep tabs on myself even without betting. But I will tail you on the over. We'll see what I can get it at after we.
You're getting a better number now, brother, because it just keeps.
I'm just trying to go for a ride tonight. Yeah. Pause. But
slow down.
I'm trying to have some fun tonight. But no, it's just once again basketball. It's a big moment. These kids are going to leave it all out on the court tonight. And you just hope that it turns out and turns into some points there in Dayton, right? So
I agree. Maybe overtime. You never know.
Won't be the greatest game, but should be fun. Should be fun enough.
The last game, because I'm sure we'll both be betting on this one. Obviously, this is much better competition. 2 bubble teams that did get in. Xavier versus Texas, battling for an 11 seed for the right to take on where is this? Oh, Illinois. That's right. Which, hey, either way, I think that's the thing I'm looking at as well here. It's similar with the UNC matchup. Whoever wins this matchup tonight, I have Illinois advancing as of right now. Whoever wins this matchup tonight has a legitimate shot of getting to the weekend and taking on a Kentucky or Troy team. Troy can come away with an upset. But yeah, either one of these teams can play with Illinois. Illinois' defense is not good, but they can also score in the 90s if they want to. But this matchup tonight, man, what are you looking at? I think the total's 151.5, right around there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Xavier spread I saw drop to 2.5 about an hour ago. I don't know if that's moved or climbed in any direction now. But which way are you leaning in this one?
Man, it's tough. This is a tough ass matchup as well. Obviously, you could see by the spread. I'll be honest with you. I am leaning Texas in this one. Just the way they came out of the tournament. I know they didn't, win or even get to the final, but they did play a lot better, showed a lot more than what they showed during the regular season, at least. And I think sometimes it's just more of a feeling with this team. Maybe they're getting hot-ish around the right time and could give Xavier a game tonight. But I think ultimately, man, I was looking back at some of these guys' recent games. This Xavier team can score.
Yeah, they average 78 a game, I believe. And I think Texas has given up 81 points per game over their last 3 matchups.
Yeah, so, man, I'm just looking back through Texas. Yeah, 83 to Tennessee, that was the L. 89 to Texas A&M, that was their upset victory. 72 to Vanderbilt, 76 to Oklahoma, 82 to Mississippi State. They did get the W there, though. They can score too. So yeah, the over is kind of screaming at me, but that's not always a good thing, right? What about team totals, man? What's
Yeah, so it is funny enough. I just before we went live saw a capper, whoever, you get some of these random guys on TikTok you never seen before giving away their free picks. He was giving away Xavier team total was one of the plays, and I think it was 76.5. Let's see. Texas is 74.5. Xavier's climbed to 77.5. Obviously, you can alt the line if you want to. But yeah, 77.5 and 74.5 at the moment.
Man. But it's like if I take Xavier, then I'm saying they're winning, right? Like
more than likely. What do you think about the first half total? 70.5. And the reason I asked that, right, because, and I know like the second half, you might get the free throw game at the end and whatever, but if you don't hit that first half total, are you feeling good about your game total? Because you don't get the 71. I mean, even if you just get to 71, you need what, 81 points in the second half. Yeah. Which obviously happens often and happens right around, the mark that you want to try to be at or under. But yeah, my point is, if you're sitting here thinking, what is the line right now? 151.5. You're thinking about taking that over. You don't hit the first half over, you're probably getting a little nervous. Your cash outs dropping, the live lines probably dropped from 151. So my question would be, do you just take the first half over and see if they can get in the 70s?
It's tempting, man. It's tempting. I don't know. I don't know why. Like I'm wondering why I'm inclined to like want to lay Xavier's team total or even like the half team total. Like
that's true. So you're leaning Xavier in the game.
I know. I feel like I just flopped. Like I don't know. I don't know.
It's all right.
I guess I would put it this way. If I had to pick a winner, I would pick Xavier.
I think I would too. I think they've been tested more. I think their resume of those like first 4 teams in or last 4 teams in, I guess I should say,
and to your point,
is the most impressive.
And to your point, I do have whoever wins this game beating Illinois in my bracket. Originally, I did go with Texas in my mind, right? But
yeah,
I don't know, something speaking to Xavier.
I like this. I like this comment from D-Rad because that is the tough part about shrinking the game, right? When you bet a game total, you have 40 minutes, right? And you get out to a slow start. It's like, all right, it's not the end of the world. So you are shrinking yourself. You're cutting it in half. And you're not wrong. Like if they only score 62 points in the first half, there is a world where, they can both catch fire. And then the free throw games in the second half and they still hit that total. The problem is I've been getting burned in the reverse form of what D-Rab's saying here. He's saying don't take the first half team total because teams can start slow but still cover. I've been on the wrong end of first half team totals would have soared, or not team totals, first half overs would have soared, and I had the game over, and for some reason the pace is slowing down the second half. The defenses are strapping up. I mean, that game I told you last night, I had over 137.5. They scored 75 at halftime. And they barely hit my number by half a point. I told you about the UConn-Creighton game. They scored 86 in the first half of the Big East tournament. They did not hit my over 136.5. So that's the only frustrating part is, maybe these defenses tighten up in the second half, stops become a little bit more critical, more important. So I don't know.
Because the team that's going to cause the over to miss is going to be Xavier, right? Like if it's not going to be Texas that stops the scoring, right?
I don't know.
You don't?
Is it?
Like, I guess what I mean is, like, they're not going to shut Xavier down.
Right.
Like, If the over doesn't end up hitting, then it's because Texas just didn't show up. Like, they're not scoring. Like, that's how I meant it. I don't know if I said it right the first time.
Yeah.
Because I am looking at some of the scores. Now, this is the Big East, but some of these scores, Xavier's holding teams to, 60 or so points. But if...
let me ask you this.
I
lean Xavier here. I think Texas's conference tournament play, especially against A&M, like maybe swayed my opinion. They're playing for their coach right now. I don't know. Like I feel like Xavier's just the better team.
It's the A&M game that's sticking in my head, and I'm starting to think that that's like a bad way to move here.
Probably, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, one game doesn't change an identity.
A&M in a conference tournament, right? So I do lean Xavier. To move on. So I'm gonna.
So are you leaning total? You lean
as my play? I don't know. I think I'm leaning the first half. I think I'm leaning the first half over if I have to pick right now. I'm just getting frustrated because my line on my first game keeps moving.
It went down again.
Which I'm not saying. So here's the thought process, right? What that tells me is that the money keeps going on the under, and they're trying to drop the under to get people to take the overs to balance it out, which makes me feel still fine because it's like, okay, that's my zag, right? Like the public's still betting the under. I want to fade the public. The problem is I much would have rather just waited 30 minutes and got a lower number. Like, so now I'm sitting here. I know it's only a point difference, but I mean, it's dropped 2 points since I've taken it. Like I altered it to 128.5 from 129.5. Now the regular line's 127.5 at -112 on DraftKings. So
interesting. And D-Rab shares that Texas is boosted. Texas is boosted, but Xavier to win in the over is boosted. So Xavier wins in the under hits. That would be the route that the books make the most money there, right? So, I guess let's see how this first game goes, and then we'll move from there, man. We'll move from there.
We'll see.
Nothing official there yet.
Hopefully, we start off with a win. But last little piece of bracket talk, man. I know we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk Eagles. Azeez Ojulari, another former New York Giant, signed here, I believe 1 year, $4 million. Dory Jackson comes over. We're going to talk about that. Howie Roseman staying busy feeding the margins of this team, right? No splash moves, but guys that could potentially have high upside years for this Eagles team on cheap deals, just like we've gotten in last season, obviously, and in the past. But a little bit more bracket talk. We'll give out our official Final Four and national championship plays. But I just want to start off with tomorrow's slate, man, because obviously we can tweet out whenever we want. But now that we're live here, we can talk about some of these early games. I believe we're still torn on Creighton, Louisville. I think that's where our minds are at. I know a couple of people that are on Louisville, like myself is. I know a couple of people that are on Creighton, like you are. It's a very difficult game to bet. So I just want to ask you this question, like as a March Madness fan, as someone that's gambling tomorrow. Like I feel like every year you got to bet the 12-15 game, right? Like the opening game, right? But do I stay away because the 12:40 tip, the second game of the slate, is arguably my favorite bet of the day, and that is High Point plus 8.5 against Purdue. I have High Point as one of my upsets, bigger seeded upsets in the first round. I don't love that the public seems to be all on it as well. I know a lot of experts and bracketologists are picking them to upset Purdue. I think they're the most bet underdog to cover the spread. Maybe I'm wrong in my prediction that Purdue gets upset, but I think High Point and that offense at least covers an 8.5 point margin. So my question is, do I sprinkle a Creighton Louisville bet, right? Do I sprinkle Louisville money line or first half, or maybe I sprinkle the over and just root for points and then wait for High Point, or do I not touch it at all?
I don't know. I'm feeling the over, man.
In Creighton Louisville?
Yeah, it's 146.5, I think.
Fuck, see, that's pissing me off. It just keeps climbing. It just keeps going up. It was like 143.5 when it opened. But I do agree.
My bad. 145.5.
All right, still. It's still up 2 points from open. I look at that matchup and I just can't help but feel like there's no way those two teams aren't scoring in the 70s. Right?
It's the first game of the tournament too, man. I think you just just root for points. You know what I mean? Root for excitement in the first game. Like that's kind of how
and I got about a 30-minute window, a 25-minute window where I can gauge how my over's looking before I wager on that High Point game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm just looking at Creighton. They were kind of up and down in the Big East tournament. They were kind of up and down. I was going to say
Creighton's offense,
yeah, the offense, but same thing with Louisville. Yeah, it is more of like an excitement type of thing. I don't know, just my experience with Louisville, just watching them play Duke. Like, not everyone's going to be Duke's defense. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, and the way they were able to pop off at times, they did slow down in the second half, but in the first half, I mean, they led the way. So I'm just thinking if they can compete at that level, man.
That's true.
And you look at Creighton can score the rod. That's the thing. Louisville isn't gonna strap them down. Yeah, I don't know, man. The over. But yeah, I don't know. I clicked on it. It says 145.5, but when I look at it from the actual schedule, it says 146.5. I'm on ESPN though. That's not from DraftKings, so I'm not sure exactly where it's at. But yeah, to your point, if you're wanting to go like money line or points, spread, it's too close to call for me, man. Money wise,
it's very
money
tough.
wise.
And then the other one after that to start tomorrow's slate, I do like.
You hear my analysis? My analysis, like if you hear my analysis, just go with High Point. Because I gave you nothing there. So just go with your.
No. Gave me a lot.
Depends. It depends how horny you are at 12:15. Come tomorrow, man. For some college,
very, and the
some win or go home
before then. It's the first bet you got to get.
I think they're going to score some points, man. I really do.
I can see like a 77, 74 type of game or somewhere right around there where they get into the low mid 50s. or 150s. You know what I mean? So we'll see. All right, man. Let's. Oh well, our final four.
Yeah.
I hate what I'm about to read to you. I absolutely despise it. Actually, I have the 4-1 seeds in my final four. I have Duke over Florida in my national championship. Cooper Flagg, even if he doesn't play this weekend or just doesn't play the first game, all signs are pointing to him being a go and okay to play. I think they arguably have the easiest route to an Elite Eight. Like they might cakewalk to an Elite Eight with an average margin of victory of like 16 points a game. I look at that Florida St. John's matchup, which I think is where you and I differ. I think you have the Johnnies coming out of there. And I just don't know. I don't know if St. John's can score enough with Florida.
Yeah.
But then I think about that St. John's defense. And when you talk matchups, can they be one of the only teams to give a Florida offense a little bit of trouble? Like St. John's does not shoot the three ball consistently enough or dangerously enough, right? Where they are going to beat a Florida team, 89 to 87 or in the low 90s, right? They got to keep it in the low 70s, somewhere around there. I don't think they're going to be able to, but that is the matchup where I think they have the best chance defensively to get to them. So I have the 4-1 seeds, and I absolutely fucking despise what I put together, but that's just how I see it dropping.
Yeah, I as you said, I have Duke and ultimately have Duke and St. John's going to my national championship. But I do have Auburn, St. John's up top with the South and West regions, and then Duke and Houston coming out of the East and Midwest. Houston was more of like almost a default to get in there. Duke, I don't know. You could say similar things. I think there will be tests along the way for Duke. You look at Arizona, that'll be tough. Alabama, they can score. That would be tough if they end up matching up with them. Do you get a Jeremy Roach reunion against Baylor in the second round? Ultimately, man, they beat Arizona on the road earlier this season when they weren't as good as they are now. To be fair to Arizona, same thing. They weren't as good as they are now either. But I'll take Duke against them. I think the matchup against Alabama, I just think that's a horrible matchup for Alabama, quite honestly. So yeah, I do think Duke is gonna make their way to the Final Four fairly easy. Honestly, bro, outside of St. John's, because I think that's the obvious, like, uncertain team in the Final Four for me. Like, if I had to pick one, that would be the one. It's the 2 seed, right? Like, but aside from them, man, Auburn. Like, are we 100%? Like, obviously, we're not 100%. Are we 90% sure? Are we 80% sure that Auburn is making the Final Four, man? But it's just the challengers on the way, and rightfully so. They got one of the better regions, right?
Okay. I do believe they make the Final Four.
And I do too. I have them in the Final Four as well.
So here's where I fall in their region. I like a lot of the games in their region. I think they're good matchups. I think they're solid matchups. I think they're good. They're all good teams for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Like you have an 8-9 of Louisville Creighton. Yeah. You have what a lot of people think is a UC San Diego team that won 30 games that can upset Michigan, or you have a Michigan team that just won the Big Ten tournament, right? You have Carolina with the pedigree. You have Michigan State. I'm looking at the bottom half of that bracket, right? And I'm saying, all right, you have a Carolina team that might make a run, but let's be honest, even if they go on an Elite Eight type of run here, they're not going to beat Auburn. And then I go down below them and I look at Iowa State. And if Iowa State gets past North Carolina, dude, they're missing their best player for the tournament. And they struggled against, a BYU team multiple times down the stretch.
Yeah.
Then you get to the 2 seed, which is Michigan State. It's Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo hasn't either been to a national championship or won a national championship in like 20 years. And that's not a knock on him. Like, he's one of the greatest coaches. It's January, February Izzo. They win a lot of basketball games. They're a tough tournament team. but he hasn't brought home a national championship in a very long time. This is a Michigan State team that is very good, but preseason predictions had them towards the bottom of the Big Ten, and they don't shoot the three ball well enough. So I look at that matchup, which is my Elite Eight matchup in Auburn, Michigan State, and it's Izzo, and it's defensively, and it's the wings, it's the size. I don't think they'll stop Auburn enough to score with Auburn. I think while their bracket face value, like surface level, looks deep and tough, one-on-one, I don't know that there's a matchup that Auburn has a problem with.
Was there... I don't know. You make a great point because it is the road. It's the road. And we're basically relying on Michigan State, right? Like do you have Michigan beating Texas A&M?
I do. I have Michigan Auburn in the Sweet 16, which is a funny pick because I know a lot of people had them losing in the first round.
Would it be a better matchup if it was Texas A&M? That's what I have ultimately, given they're both.
It's a great question. You have Texas A&M's size. You have their physicality. They're a team that can be physical with Auburn.
Have they beaten Auburn or come close? Am I tripping thinking that?
I don't think they did. Didn't Auburn only lose like 3 games?
You might be. Yeah.
Oh, they lost 5. So hold on. They lost 5.
Yeah, they just beat them actually.
Did they? When did this happen?
March 4th. 83-72. Now it was in Texas. It was at Texas A&M, of course.
Okay. Yeah. Right, so that changed things. But right, so I just like Michigan. Michigan's got 2 7-footers. They got a guy in Danny Wolf that can stretch the floor and runs like a point forward option for them. Vlad Golden's been to a Final Four. He's just an on the block type of guy. They had 3-point shooting. They're just not all that deep, right? So can they, like, I don't know, like Michigan, and they turn the ball over a lot, but then they go on this Big Ten tournament run. So that's what's awesome about this tournament is styles make fights. A lot of the times they're, it's not these interconference games like championship week is. So you haven't seen these teams play in a decade or whenever. So you don't know how it's going to look, but I do think Auburn gets there. It's funny that you brought that up because I was going to ask you, like, I feel like that is not a popular pick, but I feel like when I've seen people's Final Fours, like Auburn is like the most left off of 1 seed of the 4. And my question would be like, are we not sleeping on, but like, that's the number 1 overall 1 seed. I don't believe they are, but that's what, they were voted in ahead of Duke.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the pick. Like people have Michigan State or Iowa State or whoever getting there instead of them. So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you pick Michigan State just because of his own pedigree. Once again, like going with the name.
Right.
Like for example, a little bit of what goes behind me picking St. John's over Florida is just going against the grain a little bit with a St. John's team that I really like. Yeah, so it's like, you kind of pick certain games, and I know a lot of people, including yourself, are on Florida right now, and rightfully so. They just won the SEC tournament. Like they're hot right now. So they're a hot pick. So I feel maybe this is where I can gain some ground or create some space in between me and someone else. Between my bracket and theirs. But at the end of the day, man, the truth is St. John's could lose to Texas Tech in the Sweet 16, right? So anything is possible. I mean, Maryland and Florida, I don't think Maryland will beat Florida. Florida, to your point, is a very deep team. It's hard to imagine, but it's March. Anything can happen. But yeah, I think to the Auburn point, when you look at their path, I think that lays it out a little bit more clear. You know what I mean? As far as their path. But no, I think when I look at, I don't know, because I'm picking Florida to lose to St. John's. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. But I would also pick Auburn to lose against St. John's too. I did. I picked them to lose in the Elite Eight or in the Final Four. So
no, and that's completely fair. And I think St. John's is arguably a top 5, 6 team in this tournament at the moment, like bottom, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely It's definitely a fine. I would
What
say
about
this.
Houston, man?
Out of all the 2 seeds, St. John's is the best in my opinion. I think they
Yeah,
would beat a Michigan State team.
yeah.
Alabama. That would be an interesting matchup, that
Tennessee.
offense and that defense. And yeah, I think they would smoke Tennessee, but that's
Are we
just me.
sleeping on Houston?
Yeah, yeah, we brought this up a little bit the other day. I think we are. Like, I think that is the most slept on 1 seed. Not like in a disrespectful way. Not like
Yeah,
that I see them being not that I see a lot of people having them upset early
like
in
they're
the
in the Final
or
Four for
whatever.
us, right?
Right. But it's like they're the 1 seed that I feel like people aren't suggesting can win it all or will win it all.
Yeah, it's
Like,
like
Duke's a
Duke,
popular pick,
Auburn,
Florida's an
Florida,
all yeah, like
and
those
then
3.
Houston.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
hell, you might get more St. John's brackets
yeah,
with them winning it all than you will with Houston. So that is the one thing that's funny about them. But again, man, it's they're going to beat SIUE by probably 47.
yeah,
And then you're talking about a Gonzaga-Georgia matchup where I have Gonzaga advancing, and that's the game. If Houston can get past Gonzaga, which they're going to be favored by multiple baskets, but if they can get past Gonzaga, I think they cruise to a Final Four.
yeah. And as we talked about, man, defense translates anywhere. Doesn't matter where you play.
Correct.
So
And that
that's one
style
thing
of
they got.
defense is another level, dude. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
just looking back at some of their totals, I mean, held Texas Tech to 61 points, Iowa State to 59 points.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, look what they just did to BYU in a game I took it over.
Yeah, beat them by
Yeah.
20. Held them
I
to
mean,
59.
They beat them by like 30 the first time they played BYU too, and I've seen BYU lay 90 plus on a lot of good teams in the country.
Held
So,
Arizona to 58 back in February, and then
and the difference with
60,
this year's
64.
Houston team, man, is not only are they big and athletic and they rebound well and they're that good defensively, they shoot the 3 ball almost better than anyone. Like, they're one of the more consistent 3-point shooting teams. LJ Cryer is a monster. They need Juwan Roberts back, I think, especially for a Gonzaga matchup. But it'll be fun regardless. So, yeah, you got Duke over St. John's. I got Duke over Florida. There's almost 40 people in here right now. Hop on over to the YouTube channel if you're watching on Twitter, because I most likely won't be able to see your comment. If you want to get into our ESPN bracket challenge, $10 entry. We got I think we have 15 or 16 people in right now. Winner, it's just going to be winner takes all. I'm not going to worry about, second place gets their money back. It's $10. So winner take all bracket. If you guys want to get involved, let us know. We'll drop the link and we'll drop either one of the DSM PayPal or one of our Venmos or something to be entered. So let us know, drop a comment, let us know who you got. We got a couple minutes left, man. We probably got 10, 15 minutes to go here if you got some free time to talk some birds, man, because it's been a while. Not a while. We did it for so long, and we soaked up all the enjoyment of a Super Bowl. And Scotty's Love Hurts hoodie came in today, finally. But Howie Roseman and the Eagles continue to make some moves within the margins. I believe the last time we left off, CJ Gardner-Johnson was traded. Kenny Pickett was traded. And they signed A.J. Dillon to a 1-year deal. And we mentioned the Josh Uche signing, which I like as well. I think it's a marginal move for a guy that had a great 2022. Fell off a little bit last year, didn't really have a spot in Kansas City last year. Can have a bounce back. But since then, there's 2 moves here that I like, man. One more so than the other, but we'll start with the lesser. Adoree Jackson comes here. Former Tennessee Titan, former New York Giant. Former first-round pick. Correct me if I'm wrong. Adoree Jackson went first round to Tennessee a few years back. I like it a lot. Now I'm not suggesting that this dude is just waltzing over here and being a number 2. Coop gets to stay in the slot. He's a number 2 next to Q. I saw a couple tweets that were great. They were like, this isn't Slay's replacement. This is an Isaiah Rodgers replacement, which I don't hate that comparison. I think it's a very, very good depth move to have in that cornerback room. But then I love the Azeez Ojulari pickup. I love it, dude. I think it's another stick it to the Giants type of moment. He wanted to come here. Correct me if I'm wrong. 1 year, $4 million for Azeez to come here. 1 year, $4 million for a guy that can rush the passer on a team that just lost 2 of their better pass rushers. And their other one just retired, which we're going to get to in a second. But Azeez Ojulari has 22 sacks in 4 years. And I don't want to say limited playing time with the Giants, but a bad Giants team, Scotty. A bad New York Giants team. 22 sacks in 4 years. I will take that on my football team for $4 million as a buy low spot because I think he has a resurgence this year in Vic Fangio's defense.
Yeah. The big thing, and as I could see from Craig's comment there, if he's talking about Adoree Jackson, from what I've seen from Giants fans, the same thing can be said about Azeez. The big thing for him is that he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. I think the big thing when you look at the fit coming over to the Eagles, once again, another Georgia Bulldog, by the way, used to play with Nolan Smith. They were both on the edge of Georgia. Just imagine, but well, you don't have to. You're going to get to see it this upcoming season, so you don't have to imagine how he put it together for you. But I think the big thing for Azeez here, and the thing that's going to help him stay healthy, specifically on the Philadelphia Eagles, is the way they rotate their guys on the edge, man. They're going to keep him fresh. He's not going to get overused. You bring in a guy like Joshua Uche, who's also going to get thrown into that rotation with a bunch of the younger guys there. Obviously, you have BG, who retires. Kind of clears the lane for some of these guys. And to Craig's point earlier in the show, I don't think this is going to be the last addressment to the edge position. I think they will address it in the draft. Whether it's in the first round, I don't know, maybe. Definitely by the second or third round, they will have an edge rusher in-house of youth. And I'm excited to see who it is. But all I can say, man, is that they're putting together a room with an ungodly amount of upside, like just a ridiculous amount of upside. And you already got your staples in house with Jalix Hunt, with Nolan Smith, and some of those other guys in house. So I'm excited nonetheless. This is just such a typical Howie Roseman Eagles type of signing. You mentioned it earlier. Very similar to Zach Bond last offseason, bringing him in, getting ahead of that. And maybe it turns into a Zach Bond situation where one of these guys is brought back next year on a better deal after they prove it.
You hit on one and you look like a genius, man.
There's no risk.
No,
at all.
Not at all. No risk. And you are right. It's a guy that's missed 4, 5, or 6 games over each of the last 3 years. And obviously in 23 was his least productive season. He only had 16 tackles and 2.5 sacks. But I mean, his rookie season in 21, he had eight sacks rookie year.
Yeah.
Followed that up with 5.5. And then last year had a bit of a resurgence from 2.5 back up to 6 sacks again on a bad New York Giants team. And you can look at that one of two ways. You can look at that as, well, they're bad. And yeah, he's a guy that can stand out on a bad team and he has unlimited reps or whatever the case may be. Or you can look at it as he has no help and put Azeez Ojulari next to Jalen fucking Carter with all this help behind and see what happens, right? So it's a guy that missed 5 games last year, 4 the year before that, 6 the year before that, or 6 in the middle, 5 in 22, and he's still coming up with between 6 and 8 sacks.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I mean, you're
missing games, obviously. Yeah. And I think Adoree Jackson, to your point earlier about him, once again, no risk. He's a veteran. He's going to add experience to the locker room. He's already talked about the tape that he's watched on Quinyon Mitchell in his introductory press conference today. And once again, you're adding that experience. But the big thing that with Adoree Jackson is that he's great in run support by the numbers. He was one of the better run support corners last year, which is just something that, I don't know the numbers on Darius Slay, but I doubt that he was great in the run defense just by the way he plays and stuff. But no, I think at the end of the day, if he's at least competition for the young guys that are going to be in there competing for CB2, that's all that you got to ask of him. Because you do have guys that have been in-house, like the Keely Ringos of sorts, right? He deserves some opportunity, right? It's the same thing that we've come around to with Sidney Brown. I do think they're going to add another safety there, but these are guys that are in-house. They put the work in special teams. They became studs in special teams. Yeah. So let's give them a shot to make something happen on the field. I do get it at this point. I've kind of, moved past the CGJ thing a little bit. Like, it still doesn't make a ton of sense.
All
but
1-year deals, man.
There's no risk here.
$4 mil sub, $2 mil sub, whatever it is. And let's not forget that Howie's up to something, because you don't gather that many future draft picks, upcoming draft picks, especially, top 4, top 5 rounds. I mean, you're not using them all. I promise. And now maybe they'll just get wagered and keep kicking the can down the road just so they have a stock in the future, whatever, with some of these picks. Or there is a corner in his third year with a year left on his rookie deal, or whatever the case may be, or a prove it type of guy that a 4th gets sent for, or a 5th gets sent for, or a package of lower round picks gets sent for. Because I promise you, how many draft picks do we have, Scotty, coming up over the next 2 years in the top?
I'm not
it's
sure
like 7. It's like 17 or 4. It's something ridiculous over the next 2 years inside the top 4 or 5 rounds. They have like 17 draft picks. Maybe I'm underselling that. Maybe I'm going a little higher. It's a lot. It's a lot more than the next closest team. We'll put it that way. You're not drafting that many players.
Yeah.
So those picks have value inside 5 rounds, 4 rounds.
I will say something that I'm not as high on is the way it feels like we're addressing the tight end position. Shipping Goddard out. Obviously, that's the plan at this point. Yeah. They brought in 2 tight ends that.
Yeah, I know.
Come on, do you even need to sign them? I'd rather just roll with Grant Calcaterra, quite honestly. At least he knows the system. But
Harrison Bryant.
Really, I'm actually really hoping that they just draft a tight end. I know this draft it has a bunch of talented tight ends in it, so I would love to see us just draft a young tight end. I guess you can throw some shots in the dark, but I don't know. Those 2 signings didn't move me. But once again, no risk. Same thing. I'm not going to complain about it at the same time when I'm looking on the other side of the ball and accepting those low risk signings. So. I do get it. It's where the Eagles are at. They're going to have a lot of money that's going to be going out over the next couple of years in extensions. You see some of these extensions that are getting dropped recently. I mean, Jalen Carter is going to get an ungodly contract in about 2 off seasons. Yeah. Quinyon, Cooper DeJean are going to get ungodly contracts. So the money, the salary will be taken nonetheless, even with some of these guys going out, some of these lower cap hitting deals. It is interesting to think about, but I did see on ESPN, man, I read an article today. Eagles are an ideal landing spot for 2 different players. They're both over their 30s, so don't get too excited. One we've already mentioned. Justin Simmons, that's one we've already mentioned. Stephon Gilmore was the other guy that was mentioned. 34 years old. Was solid for Minnesota last year, though, nonetheless.
Stephon Gilmore, I feel like he just ages like one. He's solid anyway. There was a point in time where Stephon Gilmore was a top 3 corner in this league. Yeah. Right? It probably at the end of his tenure in New England, I would say, if you go back then.
Yeah.
And then
he ended up on the Colts or something?
Yeah, he's been with the Colts, the Cowboys, and the Vikings, all bounced around, and he's just been solid. You know what I mean? I remember when he went to Dallas, and he's probably, who knows what if he was 31, 32 at that point, where AJ's going to cook him. AJ didn't really cook him. I think he hit Diggs with a double move. So it's I think Stephon Gilmore is a fine addition if he came here.
I'm not dying for it, but
I would have a little bit of a pep in my step talking about it. I'd be excited about it. Not a guy, this is not a, oh my God, we have Q and Stephon Gilmore. We have we have the best corner duo in the league. No. I mean, you might have the best trio because of Coop, but you might have that. But.
It could be. Asante Samuel Jr. is still out there too, man. I know he's a slot corner.
Another one.
If his market isn't,
he's not done.
If his market isn't as lucrative as he might have thought, maybe his dad can talk him into a little Philly reunion for the family.
Padre played here. Last thing, man, before we get out of here.
Yeah, what's up?
Got to give tribute. Because BG, somewhat
absolutely.
BG retires, man. And I got to ask, because I know you were texting about it. Where's he rank? And not rank in terms of all-time Eagle greats, right? Because he's, Brandon Graham's not a top 5 all-time Eagles player, best players. Where's
Right,
he rank in
right,
terms of
right.
fandom? Where's he rank? Longest tenured Eagle ever. 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 rings, one of the most lovable dudes, a leader of leaders, maybe mishandled one thing in his entire term here, like you mentioned to me earlier, which was earlier this year addressing the Jalen thing. But who knows? Maybe that was his leadership way of getting them to air it out and get over the ship because they had bigger things ahead of them. Maybe it was a smart thing that we all thought was dumb at the time. Ultimate professional, always shows up, tears his tricep, comes back at this age to play in the Super Bowl. I believe re-tears it again in the Super Bowl. That came out after the fact.
Did he? Yeah, no, I don't remember, but
he's top 5 all time in terms of Eagles. Like, you get what I'm saying. Like, he's not like Reggie. When you make an all-time Eagles list, best players, okay, Reggie White's going to be on that list, right? Brian, but when you talk fandom, he's on there, and he's one of the best Eagles of all time.
Yeah, I mean, even to these questions, like, I mean, I think Jason Peters is somebody whose resume's kind of got misconstrued.
Yeah,
just by the end of his career. Even think about Zach Ertz. He's kind of forgotten as well.
Yeah.
Their resumes kind of get misconstrued over time, but is it BG's fault that he stayed with the Eagles for 15 years? I think BG over Jason Peters. I think BG over Trot. I think BG over John Runyon. I think BG over Asante. I think BG over Trent Cole, simply because BG played his entire career here. Jason Kelce, same thing. Lane Johnson, same thing. Fletcher Cox, same thing.
Yeah. And I would let me just add on the fact that his story too.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was the ultimate bust.
Yeah.
At one point in time.
The bust bounce back.
He was not a fan favorite coming out of Michigan at one point in time, a few years in. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
everybody wanted Earl Thomas.
Fletcher Cox came here. Fletcher Cox was Fletcher Cox.
Everybody wanted Earl Thomas.
Yeah.
The guy who shits on his wife's chest or whatever. I don't even remember what that shit
I haven't heard that before, but yeah.
I might be getting him and OBJ mixed up, man. I think that was OBJ's story, actually. Earl Thomas might have just beat his wife up. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. I'm getting these old-time Ravens mixed up. All I do know is that was like an all-time saying at a certain point for BG was that I wish that we could go back and draft Earl Thomas, the safety, obviously. And I think BG more than proved himself and proved that wrong. To answer your question, man, I think for me, because I think at the end of the day, it comes down to eras of when you got to watch the Eagles play. So basically, late 90s, early 2000s and up is going to be my era and right? And so I'm going to rank it from there on. I understand, to your point, Reggie White, the Randall Cunninghams, Eric Allens of the world, those guys are probably all top 10-ish, top 5 talents, some of them, right? Reggie White may be the best. My list goes Lane Johnson, and I've thought about this all day, so I had this ready, man. Lane Johnson, number 1. And it's so weird. It's so weird. I feel like I need to start giving Lane more love as his career winds down. Brian Dawkins. This was the interesting point for me this morning was Brian Dawkins with no rings.
Yeah.
But man, did he even need them?
No.
Did he even need him?
He's still one for me. You know what I
Weapon
mean?
X.
I would put it this way.
He made me an Eagles fan.
If I was at a Phillies game or if I was anywhere and Brian Dawkins walked into the arena to you know what I mean? Or Lane Johnson walked in. This is not disrespect to Lane Johnson. The stadium's going fucking berserk because Weapon X just walked.
That's fair. But is it one of those things where maybe after Lane's gone for 10 years and we have a sucky ass right tackle, then we'll give Lane that big, oh, great to see you, big guy. We miss you. Because that's the big thing. There has not been any safety or even defensive player that has brought the personality, the mentality, the tenacity that Brian Dawkins brought to the field. Maybe Malcolm Jenkins. He was the closest thing, but it wasn't anywhere close.
Still levels, too.
Wasn't anywhere close. B-Dawk's number 2. I went Kelce number 3, man, just because all-pro center for most of his career. He spent his whole career here. BG number 4. And then I got to number 5, man. I was talking to Mark Henry about this, and I actually kind of side with him. He brought it to me. Jalen Hurts, man. Yeah, and it just made me think he's going to be the greatest Eagle of all time. People might not like it. They probably won't love it, but he's going to be, I would give it like an 80% chance that he becomes the best Eagle of all time.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed he's already the best Eagles quarterback of all time, and that's with one ring. And I have the ultimate belief, not only in Howie and the Eagles, but in Jalen himself to get another ring, if not 2 more rings or whatever. And I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves here, right? But yeah, I have the ultimate faith and belief that does happen at some point, if not next year down the line. But that's where I think like Lane comes into play for me, right? Like, because there's so many conversations because we're talking fandom, we're talking most talented, or we're talking best. Like there's difference between more talented and being a GOAT. When you talk about Lane Johnson, right? Because you brought up a Reggie White, you brought up a Brian Dawkins, right? Or a Jalen Hurts. You're going to talk about Lane Johnson at some point when he's gone from being an Eagle as the best right tackle in Eagles history, the best offensive lineman in Eagles history, arguably the greatest right tackle of his generation in the game. If not 2-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time Super Bowl champion with another Super Bowl appearance. And the reason like I keep Lane up there, you know what I'm saying? Like of all time, because what I would ask you is this, let's say Jalen and Lane get one 2 years from now. Jalen wins 2 in his career. Lane, has 3, whatever. Not even just the rings in there. But like when you look at it, was Lane Johnson a better right tackle or was Jalen Hurts a better quarterback? If that makes sense.
It's just so hard.
And that's not a knock on Jalen Hurts being.
It's so hard with Jalen, though. It's such a hard conversation with Jalen because there is no way that we can measure statistically the leadership that he provides to this team. Like, there's just no way that we can equate it. So, like, I do feel you. Like, at the end of the day, Lane's going to have the all pros. He's going to be, like, statistically, yes, the better player. I just think by the end of it, man, just imagine 10 years with Jalen Hurts leading your football.
I agree. Jalen's already 5. And I mean, you give it 3 more years, and there's a guy wearing the number 26 that might crack his way into this top 5 as well. Because they win another one, and he's doing his thing over the next 2 to 3 seasons. Yeah, he's one of the most lovable guys of all time anyway. But with that said, man, I do got to get on out of here.
It's a combo maybe for another day, man. Maybe, after the Phillies stuff settles down next week, we're going to be all Phillies next week. But definitely a conversation, maybe around draft time or, maybe closer to training camp. We'll see. It's a conversation. Maybe you guys can bring your top 5s. That would make it a lot more fun. Craig's got me. He's got my wheels spinning. I'm wondering what like 9 players he has over Jalen Hurts.
But with that said, guys, do yourself a favor, do us a favor. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to follow on Twitter at DSM_media. If you want to get into the bracket challenge, make sure to leave a comment under this YouTube video. Drop a comment right now. If you say yes or you're interested, we'll post it in the comments, the link. $10 entry. We got about 15, 16 people right now. It's going to be winner take all. So hoping to get around $200 in the pot for it. So it'll be fun. Go up against each other. Talk some shit, and we'll see how it goes. We got 20 minutes till that first 4 game starts. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, have a great rest of your night.
Chill out, Martian. Go fighting.